Hello there. I'm Dr. Richard, and today I want to share a little story with you, not to teach or preach, but simply to remind us of something deeply human. That feeling of turning to food as a kind of shelter. Have you ever felt that way? When life feels heavy, maybe the news is filled with illness and fear, or the silence at home starts to feel louder than you expected. It's easy to reach for a cookie, a snack, a little treat. But it's not just about hunger, is it? Sometimes it's about breathing, about finding a small moment of comfort. I remember a patient of mine, her name was Gloria. She was in her early 60s. She looked at me one day and said, "I'm not hungry, doctor. I just need to feel a little better." And I understood, not just from the medical textbooks, but from my own life too, because I've been there. In Sophia's story, she finds joy in eating freely at home during lockdown. But what's important here isn't what she ate, it's why she ate. When our minds are tired or overwhelmed, our brains crave dopamine, that little chemical that brings us a sense of pleasure. And food, especially sweet or rich food, is one of the quickest ways to get it. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you ate, not because you were truly hungry, but because you felt tired, anxious, or just empty? That question isn't here to blame you. It's here to open a door. Because when we begin to understand ourselves even gently, that's when healing can begin. Thank you for still being here and listening. I truly believe that if you're in your 50s, 60s, or older, you've already lived through more than a few storms in life. And when the world suddenly shut down like it did during the pandemic, many of us, even the strongest among us, found ourselves shaken, vulnerable. Sophia's story, she's not alone. She represents so many people I've met in real life. I remember a man named Walter. He was 68 when he came to see me after the lockdowns ended. He scratched his head and gave me a sheepish smile. "Doc, I gained almost 30 pounds. Not because I was hungry, I was just bored, anxious, and eating made me feel better for a while." Walter wasn't weak. He was a former Navy man, the kind who always had things under control. But he was also human. And humans, we all need a place to retreat to. Sometimes. That place is the fridge. What I want you to know is this, that response isn't a moral failure. It's not about willpower. It's biology. When we're under stress, our bodies release a hormone called cortisol. It increases cravings, especially for sugar and carbs. And when that combines with dopamine, the feel-good chemical in our brains, it's easy to fall into a cycle. You eat, you feel a little better. You eat again, then you feel guilty. And that loop, if we don't recognize it with compassion and understanding, can go on for years. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you this so you can stop blaming yourself. Your body isn't betraying you. It's doing what it knows how to do. It's trying to protect you, to keep you going through hard times. And once we understand that, really understand it, that's when the door to change gently begins to open. Not quickly, not perfectly, but slowly and steadily. And you know something real change, lasting change, doesn't come from grand gestures. It doesn't come from starving yourself or waking up tomorrow and suddenly running 5 miles at sunrise. No, it starts with something much smaller. It starts with how you choose to see yourself. I once said to a patient, instead of asking, "Why can't I stop eating?" try asking, "What part of me is hungry for something deeper?" Because sometimes you don't need more calories, you need comfort. You don't need that cookie, you need someone to check in on you. And the hardest part, it's not controlling what you eat. It's learning how to sit with your emotions without running from them. In Sophia's story, after months of isolation, she realized just how much she had changed, physically, emotionally, even spiritually. She tried to start exercising. She gave up. Then she ate again. She laughed. She made fun of herself. Sound familiar? That's a journey many of us know all too well. A few steps forward, a few steps back, sometimes walking in circles, but never truly alone. I want you to imagine this. If today you looked in the mirror not with judgment, but with compassion, what would you say to yourself? Maybe something like, I know you've been through a lot, but I'm still here with you, and we're not done yet. I won't pretend the road to change is easy, but I've walked it with hundreds of patients, and I can tell you this, it is absolutely possible at any age. Your body isn't broken. It's simply reflecting the life you've lived. And if today, just today, you begin to write a new chapter gently, patiently, that's when the healing begins. We'll continue this conversation soon, both Sophia's journey and our own. Thank you for staying with me this far. And if something in this message touched you, please leave a comment below. You never know, your words might be the beginning of someone else's healing too. I'm really glad you're still here. And you know what that tells me? It tells me that somewhere deep down you're still listening to yourself. In the next part of Sophia's story, the lockdown is finally lifted. After 6 long months indoors, she steps outside, and the first thing she notices, her body doesn't feel like it used to. She used to be lean, active, full of energy, but now she feels heavy, clumsy. She looks in the mirror and says, I look like a monster. And I have to be honest with you, that's one sentence I wish I never had to hear from anyone. Because your body isn't something to be condemned. It's a vessel. It holds your life story, your memories, your pain, your quiet efforts, the ones no one else ever sees. I remember a woman named Elaine. She was 64, and she'd lost her husband when she was 58. During the pandemic, she lived alone and gained over 40 pounds. When she came to see me, she sat with her head down. She couldn't even look me in the eye. But after a few gentle conversations, I said to her, Elaine, do you know what I admire most about you? Not the weight you've lost, but the fact that you showed up. You're still here. You didn't give up. That's what I want to say to you right now. Sophia, like so many of us, tried to get back into exercise. But it hurt. It was exhausting. It wasn't joyful. So she stopped. And she turned back to food for comfort. But this time, something was different. She looked around and realized she wasn't alone. And you see, sometimes just knowing that others are struggling too, others who failed, started over, and climbed their way back from rock bottom. That alone can give us strength. I'm not here to tell you change is easy, but I can tell you this with complete certainty. It's never too late. Never too late to forgive yourself. Never too late to take one small step. Never too late to choose a softer, kinder way to see the body you've carried through decades of life. And if you're still listening at this point, I just want to say this. I'm proud of you for showing up, for staying curious, for being willing to reflect. Because sometimes the very first step toward healing is simply allowing yourself to ask the question, can I begin again and learn to love myself once more? I believe the answer is yes, and I'm here to walk that journey with you. Thank you for continuing to sit here with me. I truly believe that sometimes these quiet, gentle conversations can help us come back to ourselves quietly, yes, but with real power. You see, true change doesn't begin with a strict diet plan or some burst of motivation that fades after 3 days. It starts with an awareness, a moment of realization. Realizing that we've veered off course, but more importantly, realizing we can still come back. In Sophia's story, there's a moment when she drops her weights, throws in the towel, and just sits there breathless, laughing at herself. It's easy to call that a failure. But what I've seen in so many people is this. We cannot shame ourselves into transformation. Lasting change doesn't grow from self-hatred. It grows from kindness. From that moment, we stop treating ourselves like a problem to be fixed and start treating ourselves like a friend worth helping. I once asked an older patient, if your body were a friend who stood by you for the last 60 years, what would you say to them today? He went quiet. Then he said, I'd say, I'm sorry I haven't been listening, and thank you for still being here. Maybe you need to say that to yourself too. Yes, science can talk about insulin, cortisol, and numbers on a scale, and those things matter. But after 3 decades as a doctor, I've learned something that no textbook ever taught me. No method, no plan, no formula will work if the person doesn't believe they're worth caring for. So if today you're struggling with weight, with aging, with a body that doesn't feel like it once did, please give yourself a chance. Not to return to who you were at 30, but to live more fully right now. You've lived long enough to know life doesn't promise easy roads, but it does offer new paths to anyone brave enough to take that next small step. And I hope you choose that step today, not for anyone else, but for you, because you are worthy of health, of joy, and of love from the outside, yes, but most of all, from within. And if today you're still unsure, if part of you is still wondering, is it too late to change? Then let me say this from the heart as someone who's walked beside so many people at your stage of life. No, it is never too late. I once watched a 72-year-old woman start walking around her neighborhood just 10 minutes every morning. She wasn't trying to lose 20 pounds. She just wanted to feel like she was coming back to life after a long stretch of feeling lost. 6 months later, she was still walking, but now she smiled more, slept better, and most importantly, she believed she was worth the effort. I once met a 65-year-old man with type 2 diabetes. He thought he'd be tied to medication forever. But through small changes, cutting back on soda, going to bed earlier, calling his daughter when he felt low instead of turning to food, his health began to shift. Not magically, but genuinely. You won't see these stories on the evening news, but they're real. They happen every day in people just like you, just like me, just like Sophia. You see, Sophia's not some fictional character for us to laugh at or feel sorry for. She's a mirror, a reflection of who we become when life gets overwhelming, when we feel lonely, when we drift from ourselves. But like so many others, she slowly realizes, I'm not alone. And I can start again. That's the message I hope you carry with you as this video comes to a close. Not a promise of quick weight loss, not some miracle diet plan, but a quiet, steady belief. You still have time, you still matter, and you still have the power to choose what comes next. If you do just one thing today, let it be this. Look in the mirror and say, I'm listening to my body. I'm learning how to love it again. And if you need someone to remind you again tomorrow, I'll be right here, walking with you one slow, steady step at a time. Thank you for spending this time with me. If Sophia's story touched something in you, share this video. You never know, someone out there might be waiting for just a little bit of hope. And if you're ready, leave a comment below. I'm starting again today. Because it's never too late to begin again. I believe in you, and I always will. When Sophia told herself, at least I'm not the only one who gained weight, it wasn't just a casual excuse. It was something deeply human, a defense mechanism to soften the quiet guilt she was carrying inside. I've met so many people like that. When their body changes and they begin to feel ashamed, they start looking around, not to blame anyone, but to feel less alone in what they're going through. And you know what? That's completely normal. When we hurt, our natural instinct is to look for others who are hurting too. That's how our minds protect us. And sometimes, in those quiet moments of self-comfort, we take our very first step out of the darkness. Sophia isn't weak. She's simply trying to understand herself, just like so many others who have struggled with weight, with aging, and with the silent shifts that come after hard seasons in life. And if today you've ever told yourself something similar, I just want to say this. You're not wrong for feeling that way. That's the very first step toward forgiveness. toward realizing that change doesn't have to come from fear, but from the belief that you are worth it. Because you are. Gaining weight quickly, like in Sophia's case, isn't simply about eating too much. It's really a sign of something deeper, a loss of balance between the energy we take in and the energy we burn throughout the day. And that imbalance often sneaks up quietly, especially when our physical activity drops off. During lockdown, Sophia, like so many others, stopped moving as much. No more walks to the market, no more gentle morning exercises. Instead, it was long hours in front of screens, little movement, and food becoming a way to fill the emotional void. I once said to a patient, "It's not just the food that makes us gain weight, it's the absence of other things, movement, connection, and the little joys that used to brighten our days." When the body stops moving, the metabolism slows down too. Energy that isn't used starts to build up, until one day your clothes don't fit quite the way they used to and you're not even sure when it started. But here's the hopeful part. That imbalance. It's not permanent. All it takes is gently reintroducing a little bit of movement into your life, even something small, and your body will begin to shift again. Naturally, gradually, and in a way that feels real and sustainable. When the news anchor announced a new lockdown on TV, Sophia froze. Panic rushed in, not just from fear of the virus, but from something more personal, more private, the haunting fear of gaining weight all over again. Instantly, memories from the last lockdown came flooding back. She remembered the long days spent circling the kitchen, the quiet moments of eating sweets when no one was looking, the morning she stared at her reflection and didn't recognize herself, and the heavy guilt that followed. This time, she didn't want to go through it again, but sometimes fear doesn't make us stronger. It makes us feel more helpless. I've met many patients like Sophia. The moment they hear the word lockdown, their hearts sink, not because of the virus, but because they're afraid of losing control again. And here's what I want you to know. That reaction is completely human. When the body and mind have gone through something painful, they remember. They sound the alarm even before anything has happened. But this time, you have something powerful on your side, awareness. You know what happened last time. And from that, knowing, you can begin to prepare not with pressure or punishment, but with gentle understanding and a soft, steady return to caring for yourself. I'm so grateful that you're still here quietly, patiently, like the very path you've been walking all along. Before we end this conversation today, I want to invite you to imagine something. Close your eyes if you'd like, and picture yourself, not as you are now, but 5 years from now. Not a younger version of you at 30, but a future version, stronger, lighter, in spirit, and at peace. What would that version of you thank you for today? Maybe it's for drinking one extra glass of water each morning. Maybe it's for choosing to go for a walk instead of watching one more episode. Maybe it's for forgiving yourself after another emotional eating episode without calling yourself weak. I can't say what exactly will get you there, but I do know what will hold you back: self-blame, perfectionism, and comparing yourself to others. Those things don't nourish you. What does patience and kindness toward yourself? Two things we often forget to offer ourselves, especially in this stage of life where we spend more time caring for others than we do for ourselves. You don't need to turn your life around in a week. You only need to begin treating yourself like someone who truly matters, because you do. And I hope that after today, you no longer feel alone in this. Sophia's story, with her setbacks, her laughter, and her tears, reminds us that we can fall, but we can also choose to rise gently. If you're searching for a place to start, this very moment is your answer. You don't have to wait until Monday. You don't have to wait until you've lost 10 pounds. You don't have to wait until life settles down. Right now, with the body you have and the heart you carry, you are enough. And you are worthy. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment below. Send it to someone you care about, someone who might be quietly struggling too. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you'd like to keep walking this journey with me. We'll explore so much more together about health, about the soul, and about what it means to live honestly and fully. I'll see you in the next video. And as I often tell my patients before they leave my office, I believe in you. Now it's time for you to believe in yourself.